Welcome to Beauty Sleep Interviews, Beauty Sleep. Welcome to Interview, Beauty Sleep Interview.
Sleep on sleep.
Beauty Sleep Interviews, Beauty Sleep.
Beauty sleep, beauty sleep.
Okay, so these are some general questions about our album, The Whole Damn Cake. Ryan, why make an album in this godforsaken day and age?
Well, that's a great question, Shailene. Okay, why make an album? When I work with other artists, that question is often asked. Why do an album? Albums are expensive, time-consuming, they take ages, and it's really hard to know what to do with them sometimes when you have this body of work. But I think there's an amazing validity as a statement of purpose, intention. Like you're making art, I think there's still such a valid reason to do that and give someone an experience. You can have so much more fun, I think, with storytelling. And you're putting together something that will last forever. I think more than ever, there might be a certain fatigue to endlessly releasing singles for streaming. They kind of blip out and then they don't really necessarily have the same longevity. So I think it's as much of a compelling thing for an artist to want to do as it is for a fan to want to experience. And it's also just lovely to have like a physical product that you made because...
Hold it.
And tell me how it feels. Because, that thing of like, if things are just digital on drives or songs in your head, they're not real. I think there's something about having that tangible quality that's
We're referencing
important.
a song on the album there, but yes, that is... that we talk about that a lot, and we've talked about that a lot over the past 5 years. I mean, I think I read a review which said it's like they're grappling with their like sense of self for the past 6 years since their first album. And that's true. I mean, the past 6 years, the question has come up, why make music? Why release music? Is this a valid thing to do in a commercial sense? And is it a good use of your time, quote unquote? Now, obviously, we have decided yes. But, it's challenging. It's really, really challenging. But the album, I think, will last beyond the challenges of the modern and current era. Like that will always shift and change, and it'll always be difficult for many, many reasons. But this album, also, it was kind of haunting us because we were making it, and at one point we were like, there was many points we thought maybe we won't release this, but you're like, but we've made it, so we should release it, and we should release it in a physical sense. We talk a lot about where does music live. If it just lives on a scroll, I don't know if I want to make music for that. Like that's not what we were making. We were making music to listen to fully, and we wanted to give ourselves space to experiment and to upskill, and that is things you can do in an album. And that song, Am I Real Dance, which has come up a few times from some fans who've listened to it the whole way through because it is kind of our most experimental song. I mean, it's a bit of crack, really, but that is about physically holding things, hold it and tell me how it feels. We talk about that a lot. Like, it's real. That's so much more real than like, and that's hard in music because music's obviously in the air. So like being able to hold the music is really cool. That was a tangent, sorry.
It was a worthwhile tangent. Yeah, I don't know. It's sort of, I mean, in a certain sense too, like we've been lucky to make a couple of albums in our lifetime, and they do tend to chart these blocks of about 5 years of your life, which can come from the inspiration, the composition, the production, the mix, and then the release plan. And obviously I really commend and admire artists like CMAT, for example, who seem to have a much, quicker start to end.
I don't know how on earth they're doing that. I suppose maybe they're not producing it entirely themselves, but incredible amount of work, fair fucking play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't, it's not a competition. Like music, again, is not a competition. If it takes you, 6 months or it takes you 60 years to put out your record, it's fine. It's all good. And I do hope that from this point onwards, for us, releasing music will be a quicker process. It feels like we have a momentum, and I think that's really powerful. I suppose we are kind of also responding to, like, we released our first album, and then our former manager, Lynn Stevens, passed away at the beginning of 2020, and then the pandemic happened in March of that year. And that was like a lot to process in terms of how you move forward. Much greater than our band or as musicians, but as a human being in the world, it was just a really, as you may remember, scary and confusing time. So yeah, it's no surprise to me that it took us a little while to get to that point, but I feel so relieved in a sense that we have. I feel so proud of what we've achieved. And I would say that, yeah, and for any other artist, I think having an album definitely gives you some legitimacy. and it also creates such a world that you can experiment with visually as well, which I think is a real valid point. You can kind of tell the story over, videos, photo shoots, other forms of content, and then collaborations too, because we love collaborating with other visual artists because I guess we do so much of the sonic world as a duo. It's a great way to reinterpret the meaning of that art in a different...
And also we can see it differently then. I mean, I think that when you write a song, it's what you think it's this. And then when you produce the song and record it and make all these edits and change the world a bit, it becomes this other thing. And you can't really hear it. I sometimes think that whenever I'm watching back the music video or I see it with the artwork for the first time, it's like, oh, I can finally see what this is. It's like the last piece of the puzzle because when you're making it, it's all in your head. And then to me, because the visuals are a little more removed, you can see it then. It's like you can absolutely see what it is, and that's cool, and you can it changes how you think of things, and that's exciting as well.
Yeah, and I think we've taken visuals very seriously in our lifetime as a band.
We like them.
Yeah, they're such a fun...
They're pretty.
Quite pretty. They're just it's another way to just express the intention and meaning of the songs that for some people I think is even more powerful.
Can I interrupt because I'm having an anxious moment that I haven't recorded
that's fine.
We were recording, guys. There's no one else here. Story of our lives. Just me and Ryan.
Yeah, there's actually 30 crew and catering outside.
Okay, so next question.
So being independent, managing this between the two of us, what does that mean to you? Could you speak to that?
Absolutely. It is mostly me and Ryan. Now, we are lucky that we do have some support. We have Ross Bickerstaff, who is our drummer, who shares the studio with us. And he sees a lot of us because he's, the first...
God love you, Ross.
the first collaborator musically on any of our songs. We also have Sam Kumar Tandon, who's our mastering engineer at Rose Quartz Mastering. He also sees a lot of us, like a lot of extremely wired, stressed Zoom calls of us like changing mix tweaks right close to the wire and getting really specific about like the frequencies and the mastering. Like it's really
this tiny blip on a synth outro at 3 minutes 45 point something seconds.
There is a breath at the end of Keep Your Eyes Up, and that nearly broke us because we accidentally exported the digital versions without that breath.
Don't tell people we make mistakes.
I can't remember.
We're fallible humans.
I can't even remember. And it was also just at the point where we were so done with this album, but we honestly, it nearly completely, we completely fell apart. We almost didn't make the vinyl timeline because we were like, we got to get this breath in. What can we do? God bless you, Sam. Anyway, so we have that. We have a record label, Alcopop Records, who are so fantastic. And the PR company, Wall of Sound PR and Amplify Agency. Like we're so lucky to have other people. And that is, we really feel how lucky we are with that because we have so few people in the rest of the creative process. It's me and Ryan who write it. It's me and Ryan who record it, engineer it, produce it, mix it. It's me and Ryan who do a lot. We self-manage it. We have a label and they're fantastic. And honestly, sometimes we just say to them, please tell us what to do because we have no perspective. Like that's one thing we are really aware of, the lack of perspective. And we do collaborate with a lot of amazing visual artists. Alice Cinnamon does a lot of our graphic design. We worked with some amazing videographers, though I also direct and edit a lot of the music videos. And we're obviously very involved in the visuals too because it's a big part of our world. And I think a lot of that is not necessarily by choice because obviously everyone would love to have loads of people working for you and then we could just focus on the music. But I think it's born out of the fact that I really, really believe in putting out indie music and I really believe in putting out art and music that is a little bit of a cultural pushback from what you see, because the music industry will obviously just go and follow the status quo. And I really believe in being outside of that. And that requires us to take the initiative to create it and to put it out because no one's asking for it. That was our joke the whole way making through this album. We're like, no one is asking us to do this. We're just going out of our way to make our lives extremely difficult. But no, I really believe in that. And also take ownership over what you want. Like, so what, I'm just going to not make this record because there's not people asking me for it, because there's not a label involved from the start, because there's not people who will sort out the contracts. You're kind of going, well, I could figure out the fucking contracts. It's a lot of, I want to make this happen and I will make it happen. Because I believe that it should happen, not because I think that our music is amazing, but because I want our voices to be a part of the cultural conversation And because I feel so incredibly seen and free when I get to make music, I'm someone who, we're both recovering people pleasers. So we do struggle to exist as we want to in like normal social scenarios. Like I think you probably, because we put ourselves out there all the time like this, you're like, oh, they're so confident. It's like, no, I do really struggle. This is our safe space. This is where we get to be ourselves completely. And also writing and producing music and releasing music and seeing other people like how they interpret that music teaches me more about myself than any fucking therapy session. Sorry to all the many therapists that I have annoyed over the years.
Same.
Like, it is incredibly powerful for me. And so it is, I've gone off on a tangent, but it's really, really hard. I would love, if you're a manager watching, I would love for you to manage me, but also I'm just now so involved. I've kind of we've both taken the energy of like, well, fuck it, we'll just make it happen. I can figure that out in this kind of bullshit, stubborn way of like, we'll prove them wrong. I'll figure it out. So we're so like that now that if something comes up at any point of our lives and we don't know how to figure it out, we're like, okay, well, let's just figure it out. And it's actually a great skill to learn in general.
Absolutely. I mean, I think as well, support, guidance, management, they're all very different things. As in, you can seek that, I suppose, the importance of those things in different ways, I guess, what I'm trying to say. So we are definitely people that are supported well by amazing friends. People like Katie Richardson come to mind, who's always been a champion and believer in what we do and helped us with songs like Big and Bad. We were like, I don't know how to make this sit or how this should come across.
She's the secret Beauty Sleep member. She's so involved. Thank you, Katie Richardson.
So that's like so valid. And then, I think we've been doing music a while and that experience that you have, it can't, I think it's a positive thing to be skeptical of people and to push back, because having a manager doesn't mean you're set. They can fuck that up. Like, people are all like fallible. I'm not saying anyone intentionally does that. However, I have heard like lots of stories of artists that I work with in the studio that have had bad experiences at other studios or with certain managers, or and even just in terms of strictly in a business sense. And I've went through experiences like that where your voice can feel diminished, unheard. There's a lot of recovery of like working with people that I think were not helpful to my development as an artist in a sense. So yeah, you kind of want to avoid those stories. You want to be autonomous so that you can, breeze past those people. You want to try and help and champion younger artists and shepherd their experience away from negativity like that. So I think it's possibly a good thing that no one's coming out of the gates just wanting to say yes to any manager or any agent or any label. Like, we've been pretty picky as well. It's another reason it took us maybe a few years to put this out is we did really think about it even 2 years ago. Like, we have the bulk of this completed. How do we do this? And that led to us meeting lots of people and going to events like The Great Escape or Output Belfast or Ireland Music Week or South by Southwest with that intention of, I want to connect to the people. I want to find where they are. I want to see who I click with. I want, and it could be nobody, and we just look after ourselves. But that's okay. That's not a failing then. It's a decision. And I commend any artist, especially a solo artist that is managing all those things themselves, because that is the one thing that I think that is slightly a negative for us in managing everything. It's just like, it's a capacity issue. It's like your time is valuable. It's finite. Your time, where possible, should be spent creating fun music, either alone or with the people you enjoy doing that with. And if you are sending a million emails or trying to keep on top of every contract or merch order or show booking or mix tweak or mastering edit or whatever those things are in your world for your artistry, that can just be very, very tough. And then that's not to mention like working, family life, all of those other things.
Making money, XYZ. I
do feel very supported. Sorry to interrupt. Just my final point on this was just to say a thank you massively to the funders that supported this album.
Yes,
because
I was actually going to bring that up. So.
Yeah, just the belief in that, that belief externally instilled a self-confidence that we want to make the most sonically hi-fi record of all time, and we've said that in a funding application. And do you know what? Somebody looked at that and they went, all right, go for it, kid. Yeah,
no, we have to say a massive thank you to our funders. Help Musicians funded a portion of recording this record. The PRS Foundation gave us a portion of this money to tour it and promote it, and that's I think in tandem with the Arts Council NI, who's also been very helpful for us in general as artists over the past 5 years.
Joe Wright's always been an amazing champion,
an incredible champion of it. I will say, like, you know, we do get a lot of funding, and it's not to say we're flush. A lot of that funding goes into like paying other people. To be honest with you, it goes into paying videographers or paying our drummer Ross or paying for studio hire. Like a lot of it, none of it goes to us, but it does mean that we're able to take the time to make it because the way that we wanted to, you know, that is a huge portion of this. And I really, there should be no embarrassment in getting funding. I'm so thankful for the funders. And it has, in that thing that I said at the start, which is of this question, which is now very long-winded, which is that like getting to do it on your own terms is incredibly powerful. And A&R in labels does not exist anymore. They wait until you have a certain amount of momentum and then they'll say, okay, yes, I'll support you at that point. But you need A&R time. You need time to develop and experiment. You need time and money to do that. So the fact, I think funders are now the new A&R, in my opinion. I think that coming in and being able to give musicians money to create over time and often a little bit of support. I always say a massive thank you to Help Musicians because they have like mentors and other parts as part of their fund, which is extremely, extremely helpful. Even like free therapy, I think, was part of their thing for like a portion of time, which is brilliant. And that, make no mistake, is how we made this record. We could not have done it without them. And I'm so incredibly grateful to them. And I'm like a big believer in funding the arts. Like, you need to fund the arts because art takes time. Sometimes I think people are like, oh, it took you 5 years to make this record. That's so long. And I'm like, we did it as fast as we could. Like, it takes a lot of time. It's just the two of us. And, you know, you have to write the songs, produce the songs, record the songs, secure the funding, figure out the business decisions, figure out the live shows, manage all of that whilst also making money on the side. Like, that's not, that does take time. So yeah, anyway, thank you to the funders. Big up, Help Musicians, the PRS Foundation, the Arts Council NI, and people should support and fund the arts because it means more and matters more than just this record. I think that's all I'll say.
Can I have a wee sip of my coffee, actually?
Sure. Yes. So I want to talk to you about the recording side, Ryan. Tell us how we recorded this record, and tell us about the ambitions around that, because they were large. Yes.
There's usually one person in bands that is like the one that's into like just the tech side or something like that. I guess for us it's both, in the sense that we're just both really curious people, and that extends beyond the recording side to like all the work you do in like the videography side and like all that and the editing. And so there is like a little bit of a production team side of our band life, so it's maybe more untraditional than like we don't just show up and play the songs. There's like all of this other side, which is a lovely creative outlet as well. But going into this album, I definitely wanted to do something with intention that was like the most sonically hi-fi record we could possibly create. I don't know why I was referencing Peter Gabriel's So a lot, because it's often used as like a reference for mastering, or even something like the Blue Nile. Or I was inspired by sort of self-directed, self-motivated, self-producing artists that build their own studios and make incredible things. People like Kate Bush or Bjork come to mind as well. I've always just been more, even like Tame Impala in a more modern sense, like just artists that have that kind of, because it's another like it's more of an extension to me and how things come across than, it's in the same way that your voices or the articulation of how you play the guitar or what synthesizer you like or whatever. It's just so massively important to me because you get to have influence over every single channel of the recording. Like, I know I plugged in that snare bottom mic and I thought about it for 10 minutes on which it's going to be the 441 or will I just use a 57 or whatever. You know what every preamp was. When you're using outboard, you have the whole thing mapped out in this incredible little game of chess in your head of like how you want to approach this, and that's informed by so much experience. It's informed by your taste. So yeah, it's an amazing language, I suppose, to get across the emotion of the songwriting. So self-production has always felt very natural. I do love collaborating with other people as well. So like collaborating with you on that is ideal. And I feel like when I work with other artists, it's always a co-collaboration, like it's always a co-production. I've always hated, historically, studios where there's some lad, because when it always was when I was growing up, just in the big chair, and their kind of opinion was, the one that's stuck. And I always just thought it was so arrogant because no one else would be in the room if not for the artist and not for the song. So everything should be in service of that and that emotion. And if you hear people that have had negative studio experiences where their voice wasn't sort of uplifted and championed in the way that I think it should be. So for us anyway, we decided to make this album ourselves. Okay, so what was go back to your question? I'll try and be more succinct here. Sorry.
No, my question was, I guess, just to talk to us about what you wanted from this album and how we went about recording and producing it, because it was a massive part of how we made it, for sure.
Yeah, so to talk just about the production of this album, I think the first decision was that we didn't want to... There's a thing that happens called demoitis, which you might be familiar with, other musicians. Mm-hmm. We create something sort of magical in a demo, and then you're trying to recreate that in a studio environment, and it's just not quite as magical, like that kind of thing. And our first album very much was like demos that then had parts replaced to become the final production. And that can work, but I think it's just perspective-wise, we made an intentional effort not to do that. We made the shittest demos of all time, like voice memos
Mostly
with
voice
like
memos, or we would call them trash demos, like intentionally making them
bad.
very bad, like not usable, because we wanted the songs to be good. Because we were like as upskilling, right? Skill up as producers, skill up as songwriters, skill up as singers, skill up as performers. So we were like, if the songs can stand on their own in trash demos, then we know we're not getting seduced by cool vibes.
Yeah, that because we can get seduced by vibes. Yes. You know what happens? Because you can just get in this like great synth patch, or like, oh, that reverb's really lush, but you lose track of like, but that lyric is awful, so or whatever, So it was very much like trying to deconstruct the songs into songs, their simplest parts, and then so that's maybe going into songwriting. We'll come back to that. I want to ask you about that because we did make an effort to sort of lyrically and harmonically like write good songs, I suppose. Whether we succeeded or not,
we tried to write good songs.
Yeah, which that should be like flashing up the top of the screen.
Yeah.
If you add that in.
Try to write good songs.
Well, I was going to say, like, it's about the song. That's the point of what I mean.
The song's got to be good.
Yeah.
The song's got to be good, kid.
Is key.
Yeah.
So that's what we tried to do at the beginning. So that led to loads of fun adventures too. Again, I think one of the first trips we took when you could take trips again in 2021 was we just packed our car with like little Gretsch parlor guitar, tiny little keyboard, camping equipment, drove from Mallinhead to Mizenhead, wild camped, wrote little songs, send it out to sea, and Keep Your Eyes Up were written them the same day or the 2 days apart or something.
Connemara.
So that, and I don't know if we would have wrote them if we hadn't given space, and then we didn't have like a Pro Tools rig or Ableton or Logic or whatever you like, but that wasn't there, so great. And yeah, so we did a lot of time in the songwriting. Around this time, we were trying to apply for funding to find a way where we could make this the hi-fi record of our dreams. So that was very kindly supported by our funders, which meant that we could. So we hired out Start Together Studio. I've worked there as an engineer for the better part of the past decade, and I've always sort of freelance worked there, and so I know the studio really well. We've made lots of Beauty Sleep stuff there together.
And also in any other band we've been in, it's usually been recorded and Start Together. And Rocky has been a very supportive mentor for us over the years. Yeah.
Well, it is that thing of just, you know where everything is, you know the sounds you like, so that's convenient because then well, I have time then to experiment with X, Y, and Z that day or try out this other microphone technique or this other sound. Rather than if you just dry hire a studio where you don't necessarily know what you're walking into. It was knowing what to expect was important. And it is that thing, you just like, here's the keys, go nuts, and it's just us. A lot of the basic tracking was done there. That was before the Dream Factory existed. And often I would have been mixing.
Which is where we are. This is the Dream Factory.
This is the Dream Factory. This will come up shortly. I promise I'll stop rambling. So a lot of this stuff I've been working on before that have been mixed in a smaller room at Start Together. So this facility came around just after we sort of finished the principal tracking, I suppose. And that was a lot of fun. I think there were maybe about 5 to 10 days or something of us in like the Studio One room.
Well, can I interrupt you slightly? Because I think it's important to say that like the first album we did not have that. We did everything in Studio 3 in Start Together, which was essentially a room similar to this, which is like we would bring down our sense. It's just a smaller room. It was essentially good speakers and a space. And
I think it was space, just having space to work, because at that time in the first album we always had housemates, and it was just very, very difficult to just get somewhere where you could golder and be loud and make noise,
But we also did a lot of that first album in like after hours, kind of like we would work full days and we would come in at 8 p.m. and stay till like 1 or 2 a.m. And we didn't have a good sense, I don't think, at that point of how to like schedule a good recording day or a good production day. We really didn't give ourselves any space to be human beings in that experience.
Because we were very good at doing that for other people, but I don't know why at that time we very much diminished like our own needs, or like, oh, it'll be fine, or we just need a few hours, or we'll do it at night, or we'll do it when it's cheaper, or when it's free, and that's, you know, grand. But like there was definitely a certain amount of like honoring this takes time and should be respected, in terms of like you should give yourself freedom to make something that you want to make.
And also just that we could then be our best selves in that scenario. And also because you are, you know, you talked about that being the artist or the engineer, and like I think that in the first album you felt very stretched as the engineer and the artist, and so we were definitely both coming at it as like trying to be much more equal in the engineering. Now obviously everyone has a lot more experience than I do, but I was doing as much research and coming in with as much knowledge as I could do. And then trying my best to be the engineer so that you could be the artist at times, and that we could kind of switch those roles so that we could bring as much of ourselves as we could to this. So we gave ourselves quite a lot of days to record, and the way that we record isn't necessarily come in, plug in and play the song from start to finish. Although we did say we wrote the songs as demos, you know, coming in, and we were mostly capturing drums and bass and guitars there, and they weren't necessarily in the trash demo. So there was some experimentation in those days too.
So just to talk about a day in the life of making this record, it would have been us coming to Start Together Studio One initially. The basic tracking was done with Ross Bickerstaff on drums, and Amy Williamson played bass on maybe half the record. For the more kind of like liver sounding band songs, we set up bass and drums at the same time, DI'd the bass for Bleed, and then reamped it later on, just so that like it felt like really alive. We wanted that feeling because in the first record it was very much overdubby, punching in drums on stuff that was already on the grid. So there was less kind of play in terms of timing. So we wanted this, I suppose, the heart of this to feel a little more malleable, moving, energetic, dynamically. And also there's lots of laughs. There are quite genuinely laughs in like the fade outs too. I think it's on Send It Out to Sea, maybe in Radical Happiness, I think too. There's one where it's like Ross is laughing because Amy's cracking him up, and it's like it's priceless. I love that sort of thing because you just feel the people having a good time in the room. So that's a great memory. And then we would have played on the other side from the control room, just for guide tracks, and it was so fun to just. And I love like that studio has an amazing mic locker and was kind of growing around that time and adding more like Neve 1073 preamps, and we went wild in the drum recording. There's probably like, I haven't done the channel count in a while, I kind of forget, but maybe like 24 microphones on the kit. Not necessarily to all be used at once, but just I think it's really helpful on an album to set up multiple microphone arrays at the one time, because it means some songs could be like 4 microphones. It could just be your close mics and like a distant compressed room mic or something like that. Or you could have like a tighter, drier thing that's mostly close mics, or the, obviously amazing blends of multiples of those things. And also it just gives a great cohesion, I suppose, to get like your drums tracked all in the one environment, and theoretically. Though that said, I think it probably was 2 different drum sessions and then one final drum session in this room for Unfamiliar, because that camp was produced a little later. But after that point, we then decamped to Start Together Studio 2, where there is like the SSL console. We did consider mixing this record on an SSL. I think going through the process, I realized I like more control than. And for anyone that knows, like the recalling an old analog desk like that has a tiny little computer screen, but a computer tower that's the size of a person and needs constant aircon. It's a lovely thing. It's a lovely sort of reverence for making music to do it that way, but I just thought for us I don't think this will work, and it's and it's quite expensive to be in that room, frankly,
because we were changing things so much. That's why it wouldn't really work. We would come in and we do, because we both produce and we write, and it's the two of us, we can and do crazy edits right to the wire. So it just didn't make as much sense for us to be recalling it all the time for like little things like that.
And I think that's important too, because I mean, even songs like Big and Bad, which came out the year before, last year, I think people say.
Also was re-released this year
but was re-released this year, yeah. But it was one of the first final mixes, and so we submixed that through an SSL into like just stem channels, and then hit the bus compressor, and then printed that onto like a Studer tape, 2-inch tape machine. Just to see if we liked it, and it was great. It sounded fun. Sent it to mastering, really, really great. But as we went along, we kind of thought we have 13 songs to go through this process. And we're also members of Vault Artist Collective, Vault Studios in Belfast. So right now we're speaking to you from our Dream Factory studio in the city centre. So
which is also shared. So if you hear someone playing guitar upstairs, there's someone playing guitar upstairs. Do you know what I mean? It's a fantastic space full of many, many musicians, and I love it. That's all.
Yes, our buddies up the stairs tend to practice on a Sunday as we're recording this. So yeah, up music, it's all fine. But yeah, so this, like where we're sitting right now, was a wall that Shailene and I sledgehammered into this bigger space. This is an old solicitor's office, and we've just made it vibe, I guess. We've brought in everything that we've been lucky to accrue over the years, from Juno 106s to newer Moogs to all of our preamps and monitoring. And you know, we made a few little investments. Like we bought a nice tube mic, we bought better monitors, we made lots of like sound treatments. And
well, it's worth saying that we recorded a lot of stuff in here for the album too. We recorded a lot of the vocals here because we did record a lot of vocals in studio too, but we just the songs changed and we became better singers and we wanted to sing them differently. And so we re-recorded did most of the vocals in here, and we did some drum takes. We did a lot of synths in here, a lot of funny percussion, X, Y, and Z. And I think that the main takeaway for us was we wanted to do this really hi-fi record. We went out of our way to create, like, you know, miking up the drum kit with like 24 plus mics, and then having lots and lots of guitar amps set up in a row so we could switch between them and blend between, and it all being really analog, lovely analog preamps, like printing it to tape, going through the SSL. Like we were really interested and excited and curious about that because we hadn't done that before. And I love, you know, I have an analog synth, and we're suckers for like analog gear in general. But what we realized in the process of it is that although I love the sound of those things, what became more exciting to us towards the end of that process was things that we could do quickly, because we realized that actually the magic wasn't necessarily in the gear. The magic was in us and our opinions and our ability to do stuff. Like, I know that sounds really stupid, but
no, but it can sound pretty...
that shifted a little towards the end of it, and that's why we kind of were like, fuck it, like, you know, I don't know.
It can sound elitist to be like, you know, you need like a 1073 preamp, or you need X microphone or whatever. And like I suppose I felt that way that when we started making it, I was like, oh, we need a Telefunken 251 to do the vocals, or it just won't be a good song. And it's like, no, that's like, you could use a 30 quid mic, and if the song's good, like no
Sing
one
it
cares.
better. That's the takeaway, you know.
You know, and I was a bit worried about that, because so half the album's vocals probably did have that microphone and that channel strip, and then we invested in like a Peluso U47 because an engineer friend had one and I thought it sounded incredible. Bought one second hand and was like, and A-B'd them, and I'm like, they're different because they're representative of different microphones anyway. But I just mean, you know, the sonic thing, the signature was there. I was really excited by it, and it gave us this freedom, because vocals especially, I always hate in the studio having to put another artist on the clock with that. It's such a vulnerable and personal thing, and sometimes you can have a bad day or a scratchy throat or whatever. And the benefits of this space and for other projects I'm working on have been that, like, we can meet here at, 6 o'clock on a Wednesday where someone's, feeling more relaxed, and we can just spend an hour, go through the vocals. For us, it's that thing of like creating space is so much more valuable than like which microphone or which preamp a lot of times.
In general, I think what we get really excited about as producers and engineers is the process, like the process of creating the song, which is maybe coming across in like how we went about songwriting, how we went about engineering, and how we went about producing, which is trying our best to enjoy the process. Because I think that if you can show up as your best self and like give yourself the space to go through that journey the way that you want to, then the outcome will be really, really good. So the fact that the engineering side was a lot more technical and analog and trying to use the best equipment makes sense. And the way that we then ended up producing the last bits, which was just like chaotic, like, let's do that chop, let's throw in this like random train whistle that we have in here with the room mic, like in this room with someone like talking outside, like let's do crazy things, let's sing in the hallway, let's that all makes a lot of sense too, because it's the process more than anything else. It's the human process, I don't know, is what interested us about it. And
I think going through this process, it's a journey, and going through this journey, because again, just the context of like a lot of this was coming out of a pandemic and just thinking about life, like how do I want to do this work going forward. I feel like we really figured that out making this album, and it's been lovely in the sense that for the front end to have that experience in a lovely studio with great people, to bring it back here to do like the majority of the synths, vocals, and to mix the record here was really vital too, because it was just like having space, like being able to cycle here, turn on the computer, not have to plug a million things in someone else's space that you're unfamiliar with sonically, that's potentially expensive. We could come here and there's just stuff like synths are sitting right there. There's pedals on the floor, so you can be like, I'm going to send this drum kit through this fuzz pedal today, or I'm going to, add in a little synth line because I think it'll work with that harmony in the chorus. So like the actual production, the morphing, the adding like the kind of magical elements, it was so beautiful to have the space here in which to do that.
Yeah. On our second big up, thank you to Vault Art Studios for giving us affordable studio space in the city centre and being a generally extremely supportive community. And once again, please fund the arts and give artists studio spaces, because space
is the place.
Space is the place. But seriously, give people space. You can't ask. This is the thing. People ask too much of artists. And we still, I think, did an incredible thing with very little. But like, you can't do the impossible and create something out of nothing in your spare time with no money, when you're tired at the end of a day in your spare room or in your actual bedroom. Like, you can, and there's always outliers to that, but it's unlikely. And I just don't know why we're asking people to beat themselves up when they can't do that with like such odds stacked against them.
Yeah.
And crucially, at the end of the day, this is all luck. No one knows if any of this will succeed. At least, and I'm so thankful I can say, I had the best time making this record. It was challenging, but in like the best way. I feel like I became a much better artist and producer and songwriter throughout it. And I enjoyed every second of it. And I'm so fucking proud of it. And that should be the outcome that we all strive for as artists in this hellscape of a music industry today. And so massive thank you to Vault Artist Studios and to the funders and to people in general who just support artists.
So I wanted to ask you, the name of the record, The Whole Damn Cake. I wanted to ask you about that. And I also wanted to bring up Radical Happiness, which, do you want to show people Radical Happiness?
I have a show and tell.
Okay, you made this earlier. You played this earlier. Let's see it, everyone.
It's terrible. I'm not I did this for fun myself. Radical Happiness.
Yeah, so you painted that phrase on that little canvas early on in the process. It was in sort of contention for the album title for a long time. But I just wanted to ask you about that, because in terms of those themes, lyrical themes, titling, what is the inspiration that led you to come up with that phrase, and why were those phrases important in sort of summarizing the intentions of the album?
Sure. So people call us very positive. Even now, they say to us, "Oh, you're the most joyous and upbeat and positive people," and that is true. I think that you just have to be yourself, and I think we're naturally quite optimistic people. Early on in the process, and I think I painted that in 2020. We were writing a lot of songs in the pandemic. I said I think all artists were trying to do. I don't think we were succeeding hugely, because I find it very difficult to write in a vacuum. I'm very inspired by people and events and things happening, and that stationary aspect of the pandemic wasn't helpful for just to be left alone with your thoughts. But we were writing songs and they felt similar to the first album. And the themes of the first album were about being open about how we struggle with our mental health and being a bit optimistic and yearning for something more. And we, we're laughing listening back to the lyrics. They were all very vague. It's all like, I know there's something out there. Oh, I can't even remember any of the others. I'll chase it for forever. And I love those lyrics, but it was really vague. And even for ourselves, we just don't know. There was a lot of not knowing. When we were writing this album, someone had said to me, "Oh, you're dangerously positive." And I thought that was really funny, because at that time I was writing a lot of songs about how much I was struggling and not thinking they were very good. But also it's just funny that people can see you as this really, really positive person and you really do struggle. So I wrote down Radical Happiness because I liked the phrase dangerously positive, because I thought, oh, it's nice that the positivity could be seen as like a disruptor or something with power, which I do think it is. So I wrote down Radical Happiness, and I said to Ryan, I think that we should write an album about this. I think that we need to figure out how to be happy, and we should write a song about that journey, in a real sense, in a radical sense for ourselves, not in a oh, I'm so happy, la la la, which is me, but in a way that it's we love our life and we're happy with our life and we can stand by it and we know who we are. And that's scary. That's a scary thing to tackle. And that is a big portion of why it took us a long time as well. You know, we've been writing and creating music since we were teenagers together in various different bands. And if you will know, and we've also been freelancers since we left school, we have really not had a day off. Like at that point, we really had not had a day off. We were in the same vein of we were not giving ourselves the space to be the people that we wanted to be. We were just being like kind of saying, why can't you be amazing with like no money, no space, no time in a shared house, while working 100 hours, and like, you know, it was not enough for us. Like we weren't enjoying ourselves. So this is a long-winded answer, but we wanted to write about that. And so we also wanted it to be more specific. So we did do a lot of things. We did a lot of self-reflection. We went to a lot of therapy. We gave ourselves a lot of space to not be musicians and to be with friends and with family and talk to people and be out in nature and to read more books and like, research more things outside of music, you know. And to enjoy yourself. There was a lot of celebration. We went on holidays for the first time. That Malin to Mizzen trip that we talk about, where we wrote Send It Out to Sea, was a massive turning point. We got married. We built our home together. You know, we celebrated with our friends. We went to festivals. And all of these things that seem really trivial, but are just life and living. And it was very, very healing and incredible to do. And we were very open about the songs that we were going to write on the way. So we didn't know what that was going to turn out like. And we sometimes, I think, surprised ourselves with some of the songs that were written. But like, it's just us being who we are. And so that's kind of a lot of the themes and learning more about who we are and how our brains and our bodies works in general. And how we want to express ourselves and just giving ourselves the space to do that as humans and then writing songs along the way is the thing. Sorry, you wanted to say something. I've been talking too much.
No, keep cooking if you want to. I was just going to add to what you said that, like, I mean, I've long now lost any sense of trying to appease other people. Like, you know, I'm so happy to be completely ourselves, if that makes sense. And if people don't like that or whatever, that's fine. It's like there's no, like, I think that's just for me, just to say that, like, to be so authentically truthful to ourselves was a big thing. Like, not putting on a front, not trying to be cool, not, I don't know if we've ever done that, but it's a more, maybe even a subtle change, an internal change, just, you know, being completely at peace with your identity for the first time is massively freeing. And but it's very difficult. It takes all the things you just said, a lot of introspection, and
a lot of celebration. That's what I always think is like,
true, yeah.
You need to celebrate with people. You know, it doesn't happen by you sitting alone going, why am I like this? Like, it happens by existing and doing things and giving yourself the space to experience and reflect. It is both.
When you talk about this whole project being wrapped up in this lifetime of what do you say, like an audiovisual? It's
our multimedia lifetime art project.
But wrapped
That's
up in,
what we think of it as.
And absolutely, but like our self-identity is really wrapped up in that, I suppose.
Yeah, and we do learn a lot from creating in this, you know, for sure. And we wanted to be more specific and more open. And, you know, I think then you asked about the name of the album. For ages, we were like, we'll call the album Radical Happiness because that was the North Star of the journey. And obviously there's a song called Radical Happiness on it, which we didn't know how to write in the end. We kind of just thought it'd be funny to write it as like a jingle, like a theme tune, which is why it's absolutely mental. But I love that song, and it's kind of summing up some of the general themes. But we didn't end up calling it Radical Happiness because that felt too trivial to how we felt about how the end of the journey, or how we felt at the end of the journey. And it's what you said about embracing yourself so much and accepting yourself and taking responsibility for yourself, you know, just completely owning your life and embracing who you are. I kind of also said this phrase a lot in the album, which is like, it's not a phase, mom, which is like such a silly thing, but it does get to the point where you're turning 30, you know, you're getting married, you're settling down, you're like, no, this is just who I am. This is not like me being a rebellious teenager who wants to start a band and dye my hair. Like, I really do.
Lifers.
Yeah, we're lifers. And also, like, I think a lot of teenagers that do that are lifers. It's just that you're made to feel when you're younger is that you might grow out of this. And it's just, we have not. So it's embracing ourselves. And we just thought, if we were trying to sum up what we were embracing, the thing that came up a lot was us just being too much. Like, both of us for different reasons, just being a bit too much. You know, we're always not very cool. We're very loud and colorful and ridiculous in rooms, and throughout our lives have often been kind of made to feel like we should tone it down. So we were like, okay, no, this is us embracing being too much. And the phrase "the whole damn cake" came out of just like thinking through that. I think the kind of phrase, the two phrases that we were playing around with was like, I'm not too much, I'm the whole damn cake, which is also like, I'm not the cherry on top, I'm the whole damn cake. It's kind of like we are everything. And also that this album encompasses all of it. It encompasses the joys and how we feel now, but it also encompasses the extreme anxiety and difficulty in accepting who we are, because that's hard. I think when we were younger, I think there's a part that just you wanted to be someone different, and you're not. This is who you are, and I'm so proud of us and I love us, but it does internally take a long time. So yeah, that's where the name came from, and we shortened it to the whole damn cake because it just felt like every time we said it to people, I could see them going, yeah, the whole damn cake. And it felt like it made people think about themselves or that phrase a bit. And it made them maybe feel a little proud of being a bit ridiculous, which is what I wanted. I didn't want to call it too much because that felt like it was a negative. It's not. It's like the whole damn cake. Like, that's how I feel about everything. So that's where the name came from. And that is now why our cake budget is through the roof. So.
But there is that duality of balancing, like, maybe it's not. I was going to say silliness and seriousness or earnestness, but I think it's that we take.
It is all very earnest. We just earnestly are very positive and silly and loud.
Yeah.
But I find that to be very serious. I think it's very important.
We're serious about it, yeah.
It's very important to be fucking silly. Like, it doesn't, like, life is like, we're musicians. At the end of the day, it's just music and it's us living, and we're so blessed in this life. Oh my God, are we so lucky? And we better fucking enjoy it, and stand up for what you believe in and yourself, like, and other people. But
humor and like pop songs and like all those things, give meaning to difficult emotions as well, if that makes sense. Like, I think they're so necessary. And this is just sort of in our nature to be this way. It's funny, I know this, we're obviously sort of self-interviewing ourselves to try and talk about this, but in the sense that, like, when we show up, we've been doing a lot of like, media type and interviews and stuff at the minute. And I think when we arrive at a place, it is funny because we just bounce in like this ball of colour usually, and it's always commented upon, but it's not, I don't think about that.
It's not intentional, we're not putting it on.
In the sense of like, oh, they'll love that, but it is just, it makes me really happy. I'd like to think that we give a good first impression to people, and that's out of just naturally just who we kind of are. I love when that, I don't know.
Well, I also think that we are being ourselves more than we were in the first album even. We are being ourselves more. We have done the work and we have enjoyed our life, and we try our best to like enjoy everything that we're doing. It is hard work. Like, it's a lot of hard work. We are tired, but we're trying to enjoy this moment. So I think that people pick up on that when you turn up as yourself, whether that is loud and colorful, whether that is a bit more discerning and like quiet and listening. Like, I think people really should feel, and that's what I hope people take away from the album, that like you're allowed to be who you are, and that is fan-fucking-tastic, and you should enjoy and embrace yourself and go out into the world and just see what happens. That is what I want people to take away from it. And yeah, that is our album. You should listen to it. And thank you for listening to this ramble. It's just clearly there's so much that has gone into these past 5 years. It's just very hard to sum it up in like a social media video. So it's like, let's talk loads about it.
And it's been nice. Thanks for joining. If you have, it's sort of lovely to speak about this stuff. Often on the internet, we're dancing around and doing silly stuff, which we will always do. But we can do more of this in different forms. Yes, if you like it.
We have shot 2, and we're planning to do more about like the production and songwriting behind each song specifically. Which, if you're interested in, let us know. If you're interested in certain songs, because we might not get through all of them, then do comment and let us know. Even if no one watches them, I think that we'll find that interesting. We're very, very proud of what we've done. And also I find it interesting when other artists do that. So I'm making it for me. Like this whole fucking thing, I'm doing it for me.
Yeah. Okay. Peace out. See you.
Thank you. Love you. Bye.